How much of a factor does your physical health play into your mental health?
What's our plans for the future? Your plans for the future?
There's one piece of advice you could give to everyone in the world. What do you think it would be?
This is Spitballin with Colin. Hello, world. We're back. Welcome back. Thank you for coming back to Spitballin with Colin. We're on episode 2. I told you I'm going to bring guests on. Impressive guests I think can bring value to anybody, any walk of life. On this episode, we have just a powerful woman. We have a woman who is grown up, a daughter of immigrants in a complete different upbringing than me. She grew up in a city. I grew up in rural America, essentially. She's a board certified athletic trainer, and an athletic trainer is not what you see at your bodybuilding gym teaching somebody how to do bicep curls. An athletic trainer is a healthcare professional on the sidelines of sports games. You know, it can range from high school sports all the way up to the New England Patriots. Those are all athletic trainers. So they're certified, they're legit, and they do a lot of things from preventing and diagnosing injuries to a whole lot more. This woman has also competed in a local, well, she was invited. She did compete, but she was invited to compete at a local CrossFit invitational event within her first year of doing CrossFit. So that just goes to the character of athletic abilities. In high school, she competed against Cindy McLaughlin, who is an Olympian at a national track event. The list goes on and on and on. So I'd like to welcome our first guest to the Spitballin with Colin podcast, the lovely Kiana Bueno.
Wow, that was quite the intro. Thank you.
It's not like it took a few tries, but
I know. Third time's the charm.
It is. Well, I mean, there's no better place to start than where you started. You don't have to go into depths about your childhood, but maybe just kind of talk about your upbringing, what it was like to, grow up in such a diverse and, in my mind, just interesting community.
Yeah, so I grew up I'll start where I was born. I'll kind of do a little bit of a timeline, but a brief overview. So I was born in Methuen, Massachusetts, which is on the North Shore, for those of you that don't know. And I only lived there for probably about like a year or two of my life. And then my parents split up and I moved to Haverhill, which is the town over, or I say town now because I'm used to saying town, but it's a city. Haverhill is a pretty big city. And I grew up there with my mom and my older brother. And so my mom was a single mom. She was always working. She had like 2 and 3 jobs, would work like 60, 70 hours a week, while my brother and I he kind of took care of me. We kind of took care of each other, did things around the house. And my mom would always, make ends meet to try and like make sure we could go on our field trips and like bring us to wherever we needed to go. My brother's significantly older than me too. He's like 11 years older than me too. 11 years. So there was like a really big age gap. So it would be more difficult where like he would be in high school and I would be in like, I don't know, elementary school. So my mom had to like cater to like both of our needs kind of differently. And then Haverhill's pretty diverse, like you said. So like the city itself has obviously, good affluent parts. There's really poor parts, and then, the middle class parts. I lived on one of the worst streets in the city at the time. I'm sure now it's maybe a little bit better with some reform, but at the time there was like shootings and like police on our street all the time. Our house burnt down at one point. So like we went through a lot. It's hard to remember now just because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I like blacked out some of that memory. I was also very, very young at that time. But then we lived in that house for probably up until I was in like 3rd grade. And then we moved to a nicer part of the city. Still living in an apartment though. And that's where I pretty much like did most of my elementary, middle school. And then later in high school, Oh, I don't know. I don't want to like go all over the place with my story. I don't know what
I
direction you want to go
no,
in.
no, no, that's a good direction. I think, and I think I'd like to hone on just because I've been around your family,
Yeah.
but I'd like to just kind of hone on and and just go into a little more depths of your upbringing in terms of when you were a child and your mom's working these 2 to 3 jobs. Her brother wasn't the only one taking care of her. I mean, there's
Right.
her aunts, there's her uncles, there's the dynamic of a at least my family compared to your family was completely different. My family, you come to holiday events, there's no hugging to say hello or goodbye, greet you, and leave you at the door. There's very little like talk of "I love you" or "Thank you very much," or there's not a lot of like just intimacy that you expect from a family. And then you go to your family, a Dominican family, just I don't know, maybe a normal family,
Mhm.
but there's hugs greeting you at the door. There's hey, can I get you anything? What do you want? Do you want food? That it's it just was very. They're a lot more like
The hospitality
the
is a big thing.
hospitality and just a lot. There's you just felt a lot more caringness. Not that my family doesn't care, but it's just different ways of caring. I think,
Yeah.
and I think it's like all hands on deck and supporting and it's just I think it's a cultural thing. I think that's what I'm
Yeah.
getting at. It's a cultural thing is, you know, how we're brought up. I mean, you see so many people that are brought up and like babied all the way up and helicopter parents and this and that. And I
Yeah.
think it's a lot more rare to get that in a more cultured background, I guess,
Yeah.
upbringing.
Yeah, for sure. So like part of your what you're saying is just like the built-in community we have. Obviously like family is a community, but like how we like lean on each other and like use each other for help and support when we need it. So like when like a good example of it is like when the first apartment I was born into in Methuen, like I said, we lived in an apartment building, and in that apartment building my entire family lived there. So it was one of those where you like, you walk in the first door, you have to like press a buzzer, and then you get into the apartment, and then there's like stairs, and go up and down. So if like I lived on the second floor, my aunt lived on the third floor, my cousins lived across the hall, my grandparents lived on the first floor. So my entire family was in one building. So if my mom was out and she was working, I could just knock on the door right next door and just go into my aunt's house and see my cousins and stuff like that. So my aunt definitely, I mean, sorry, my mom definitely like utilized like family a lot when I was growing up because my aunts were always taking care of me. My grandparents were too, and all of those things, all of those family values, I pretty much just like learned because that's all I knew. Like, you greet everyone when you walk into the door, you give them a hug, you give them a kiss, and that's a lot more popular outside of America. So like my family immigrated here from Dominican Republic, so they're just used to that type of like I don't know, I don't know what you'd call it. Like that's just like the formality. Like you walk into a room, like you greet every single person individually. You make sure they're seen. Like you give them a hug and everything like that. And then just like you're never alone. Like everyone's got your back no matter what is going on. Like I could always reach out to any of my aunts or any of my cousins, and like they would pick me up wherever I was and things like that. Like we never really had like that much money, but we had like in replace of money we had love. So like
Hmm.
it makes a huge difference when you know that like no matter how tough things are, like you're always going to have your family to back you up, which sometimes I feel like doesn't you don't really feel that way in like American families because you have like money but you don't have like the same amount of like caring
Yeah,
and love built in.
yeah. I mean, I think it's like, "Mommy, Daddy, I want an iPhone or I want a new car." It's like, "Okay, we love you. Here's a new car." Whereas it's like, we can't afford a new car, but here's like experience, I guess, or
Yeah,
here's.
or just even little things like I'd be laying in bed and like I'm sure anyone who's like listening and is like like ethnically like from somewhere else other than America, like I would just be laying in bed and my mom comes and she cuts me up like a mango and just gives it to me and she's like, "Here you go, eat this mango." And it's just like, "Oh, thanks." Like, just like
Yeah.
little acts of service like that to be like, "Oh, I love you." Like I like my mom used to like tuck me in until I was like 20, honestly. Like whenever I'd be with my mom, she'd like I'd be in bed and she'd be like, "All right, good night, Kiana," and she'd like give me a kiss on the forehead and just go like into the other room. It's just like little things like that. I'm sure like other families do that, but it was definitely very present in like my family.
Yeah. Um, for those of you listening, Spitball and Colin every week we'll have like a couple questions that can get like a little spicy. And a spicy question, and I'm going to leave it up to my podcast guests if they want to answer it or they want to leave it. I'm going to call this a spicy question, but I don't think you're going to want to leave it. I don't think it's going to be too hard of a question. But what do you think about the fact that you were taken care of by so many different people, or you were allowed to see, you're exposed to all these different perspectives on a day-to-day basis where it's like, oh, okay, my aunt's, raising me today, or like taking care of me today, and my mom's taking care of me this day and this way. Whereas like, I'm sheltered. Like I had the same parents, I had the same viewpoints for the last 24 years, or at least the last 20 before I kind of got to college and out of the house. I mean, I think it could be good and bad, no matter who's raising you. But I guess my question is, do you think your exposure to these experiences and viewpoints has like enabled you to take and learn from those to be better equipped to deal with the world?
Yes, I definitely think so. Like you said, it was like good and bad. It's definitely a double-edged sword, especially growing up. Like going through different phases in life, you learn to understand why things happened the way they did. At least in my circumstance, like part of my so up until I was like 13, I lived with my mom, and then a big life change happened where she moved away. So then I had to live with my best friend. And I lived with her for about 2 years, and then I moved in with my aunt. Oh no, I moved in with my dad. And then my dad was unstable, and then I moved in with my aunt. So like I was under many different roofs over the most of my adolescence. So at the time it was very rocky and very difficult. But it definitely makes you like adaptable and obviously resilient. Like you have no choice. I mean, at least I didn't at the time. But it all kind of happened for a reason. Like having my family like as a backbone too. Like I'd always be with my aunt or my cousins. They'd always help me out. And it just kind of, I don't know, it obviously shaped the way the person I am today. At times it would be kind of like I felt a little bit resentful towards my mom to be like, all of my friends at school, like, they've lived in the same house since they were born. Like they have so much stability. Whereas, I was pretty unstable at the time, where like going from house to house kind of made me like resent my mom at the time. But, there's no perfect way to raise a child, and life circumstances are different. And like, obviously I acknowledge that now. But growing up, it was definitely difficult. But overall, I've learned to like have peace with that. And it definitely shaped and molded who I am today.
I mean, I think as we grow older, when you're little, no matter what your parent does, you perceive as your fault or, something you could have caused. Whereas when you grow up and you get some perspective, you're like, wait, they have to live their lives too. And like, they want to live their lives how they want to live their lives. Like we want to do what we want to do too. So, I mean, you don't realize that when you're a young kid or you're going through all these phases. So
I also saw one of like, this kind of just reminded me to tie it back together, is I saw like a TikTok or a meme or whatever. And it was like, the truth about having like a young parent. Like my mom had my brother when she was 17, and then she had me like when she was like 27. So she wasn't young when she had me, but she was young when she had my brother. So that took a lot out of her youth. So it was like the real like truth or whatever, the pain of having a young parent is watching them mature as you mature. So it's like I was obviously maturing because I was so young, but so was my mom. So it's hard to like put that blame on her when she was trying to figure out her life at the same time, trying to provide the best life she could for me. So now it makes sense, but at the time it was very very hard.
Yeah, it's so hard to have that perspective as a kid because you're trying to fit in with the world. Like you're not trying to understand the world. All you're trying to do is fit in and not be judged on how you look or how you act. So let's move a little forward. Let's get into high school.
Sure.
Let's just kind of maybe touch on your athletic background in high school. We can take that into and just steamroll right into college. Athletically, high school, you played volleyball and you ran track just in the spring, correct?
So I played volleyball all 4 years, and then track and field I only did outdoor, so in the spring. Volleyball, my team was amazing. We went to Disney World twice. We competed in like the nationwide tournament at the like Disney Worldwide of Sports. Sorry, my voice is so scratchy. And then we did that 2 years in a row. And then we also for track, we went to nationals in North Carolina, Greensboro, at the New Balance Nationals for outdoor track. I went with a relay team. We had a 4x2 and then also
200 meters.
200 meters. And then we also did like a Swedish medley, which was 200, 200, 400, 800. So we went with the whole team, and that was a lot of fun. It was, fun traveling in high school with all your friends and teammates and stuff. Those were really great experiences, which, by the way, we had to fundraise, like, in total, all of those trips were like $100,000 for everyone to go. Like, it was so expensive. So we literally were like every single weekend, like, tagging at like Market Basket or like grocery stores, like asking for money for like the Boosters Club or anything. Writing letters, like doing chores for people, just trying to make them money because no one had enough money to go. And that just goes to show like the type of school we were, just because, we couldn't have kids' parents just write checks. Like the kids who were talented enough to, go to nationals, like we were all lower income. So, and even if we were middle class, I still feel like it was a hard, big number of like money to make to just write a check. So we had to fundraise a lot. We're definitely a good fundraising school.
Yeah, which is completely different from the high school I went to. I mean, none of the teams really took trips like that. The only team that did was the basketball team, and that was, I guess, fundraised, but it was kind of just paid for because of the basketball camp they had every summer. So it was like the kids really didn't pay any money until they got there.
Yeah, we had to have like meetings, like weekly meetings with like parents and students, and like we sold mattresses at one point. Like we had so many fundraising ideas, like everything in the book. And like the parents really wanted to make it a point to like they didn't want to pay for the trip. Obviously they couldn't afford it. So you know how like sometimes schools will like sell candles or whatever, and the parents will just buy the candles so like that was just pointless. They're like, okay, if you want to make a donation, make a raw like donation. Don't like spend money on a candle you don't want. So all of our fundraising ideas were like to the public, so that the parents didn't have to waste their own dollar, spending money to try and fundraise for the kids. So that was like a big thing too.
So arguably, I mean, going to nationals, race against an Olympian, and kind of just paying your way to Disney, to probably an average person, seems like you were more athletically inclined to run track in college. And why did you not? Was it a coach? Was it just, I hate running? What factored in the decision to be like, okay, no, I'm going to go play volleyball at Bridgewater State? And it could have been your major too, but I don't know.
So funny you say that. I actually wrote my college essay on track. So I didn't say it before, but I went to Bridgewater State. I played volleyball there. We'll get into that in a little later. But yes, Colin said I didn't run track there, but I still wrote my college essay on track, even though I knew I wasn't going to run there. So basically the essay kind of ties into my background, which we just talked about. And the title of the essay, if I'm not mistaken, is like Next Stop, Independence. And that kind of had to do with how, for track practice, like I didn't have a ride. At the time where I was running track, I lived with my dad. And I lived with my best friend and my dad. My best friend didn't run track, so she didn't have that problem. And then I lived with my dad, who at the time didn't have a car. So track is after school, and I lived on the other side of the city. It's not like I could just walk to my house. I had to take the public bus, like public transportation. I had to like go on to my city's like bus station thing, find out how to get a ticket, where the bus stops, go all the way, from point A to point B every day after practice. So like I did that because I wanted to run track with my friends, and it kind of like gave me a sense of independence. Like if I want to make something happen, like I'll find a way to do it. And I kind of had my dad to lean on for that too, because he didn't have a car. So he was like, why don't you just take the bus? And I was like, I guess, all my friends are doing it, so I guess I'm going to take the bus. And the first year I did that was like my sophomore year, because I think my freshman year I had a friend who brought me home. But it was kind of embarrassing at the time, because I was like, I don't want my friends seeing like I'm waiting on the side of the road for the bus, and they're like, do you want to ride? And like I would always feel guilty, be like, no, my ride's coming. But like I was actually just going to get on the like public transit. But I didn't decide to run in college because I was pretty burnt out by my senior year of high school. My best friend and I, we kind of were like the jack of all trade for our team. So my coach would just run a stride to like get him points. So we can like score for the team, so we can like win meets, opposed to what we wanted to do for the day. Like say if we only wanted to run 2 events or only wanted to be in one field event, he'd be like, all right, this is what you're going to do. This is what's going to get us points. And that's what we'd have to race. And as a runner, that kind of gets unfulfilling just because you're like, this isn't my race. This isn't what I like. And it just kind of burns you out. So by senior year, my best friend and I, we decided to like quit track. And we're like, this isn't fun anymore. It was the community of track that kept us there too. So the seniors who graduated the year prior, they were off at college. So we were the seniors and we're like, this isn't fun. We don't have that group, that core group we had before. So we would have just been, by ourselves, and it just wasn't worth it for us at the time. So we kind of just, we're like, all right, we've peaked. This is our time. Running was fun while it lasted, but we're not going to continue.
Yeah. I mean, that's insightful in itself, like just kind of paving your own way to do what brings you joy. And at that time, it was running with friends and being around your friends. And I mean, you're successful, so I'm sure that feeds into part of wanting to continue that.
And there's also something to be said about being good at something you don't enjoy. Because I feel like a lot of people are, they just do things because they're good at it, and they're like, take a step back, and they're like, wait, I don't even like this. Because there's some joy in, doing things you're not great at, but are super fun, which was volleyball for me. I was good at volleyball. I wouldn't say I was amazing or great, or Division I or anything like that. I was just good enough to play in college, and then I thought it was a lot of fun working to get better at that too. So that's why I chose it to be my main sport.
So you go to college, you go to Bridgewater State, you are working on your athletic training degree, and you're playing volleyball. And I mean, I'm not a volleyball like nerd, but I would say you had a pretty good amount of playing time for your position. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It was kind of my freshman year. Yeah, it was kind of a battle for a starting position, I would say. So the playing time was, I felt like I was undermined my freshman year. Like I was kind of like in some other girl's shadow. And I was working really hard to, become that starter. So I was pretty much like second string to the girl who was in front of me.
So you're working hard, you get on the floor, and injury strikes.
Yep.
That's not fun.
No.
And it's not like it's a, oh, I bruised my knee injury, I can't finish the set. It's like, I just landed on the foot and tore my ACL type of injury.
Whoa, you just broke it to them before me.
That's well, I'm just saying. I mean, like it's okay. You tore your ACL, but I think the more important part is how did that make you feel, and how did you overcome that? Because that's not an injury that you just, it's not a bump and a bruise you get over in a week. It's
So it was my freshman year. Probably we had already gone through preseason, probably halfway through September. And we were at like a tournament away, like an hour and a half, 2 hours away. And I finally like proved to my coach I can start. So she starts me, and then it's a 5-set game. So volleyball, you have to win 3 out of 5. And it was the 5th set. So by that time, everyone's fatigued, tired, whatever. So I jumped up, landed on someone's foot. My knee just kind of did the stanky leg, and my ACL was torn. At the time, I didn't know that, and the athletic trainer there treated me as if it were an ACL tear, although he didn't know either. I was seen by like multiple athletic trainers, a doctor, orthopedic doctor, and the conclusion was at the time that I had dislocated my patella. So my athletic trainer took that diagnosis and tried to rehab me as best as he could, and I was out for maybe 4 weeks. Just doing rehab in the athletic training room and slowly integrating myself back into practice. When he thought I was like strong enough to go back into practice, I started playing again. So I was playing when I didn't know was that my ACL was torn, and he didn't either. Like, so no imaging was done. Spring season rolls around, probably like 6-8 months later, and I like re-injure it again. I like fall on my knee and it hurts. So then he's like, all right, let's get an MRI. And then I got an MRI, and I had torn my ACL and my meniscus. So then I had to get surgery 8 months later. That was a huge setback to me, because had I gotten surgery 8 months prior, then I would have been able to play my sophomore year. But since I found out so late, I had to get surgery 8 months later. And that was a long, bumpy road to recovery, getting back. Anyone who's torn their ACL or knows someone who has knows that it's a roller coaster. So It was very fun though. I enjoyed physical therapy. Tearing my ACL was one of the most transformative things of my life. Really changes and challenges your mindset. It helps you grow as a person and as an athlete, and just gives you a lot more perspective. Especially since I was studying athletic training, I think that experience helped me become a more empathetic and compassionate athletic trainer. And just because I've been there before, so I can like help my athletes in a way that they understand. Um,
Just stealing all my mojo here. All these
what?
questions you're just answering.
Oh,
Oh, I was going to
sorry.
be like, why is it so helpful for you? Or why did you find it fun? Because I mean, some people are like, it might just be the initial reaction, but it's just going to be why me? Why now?
Yeah.
Why? Just be mad at the world. Whereas I'm sure that happened to you because you're stuck up in the bed in the middle of summer, right? It's not like a winter where it's like, I don't really need to go outside. But it's like the summer, and my friends are going to the beach. So that sucks.
Mhm.
But I mean, you just said it yourself. You're able to, okay, I know I want to be an athletic trainer. So now that I'm spending all this time in the athletic training room rehabbing, I can actually like watch how this person's doing a shoulder recovery, how that person's doing a hamstring recovery. And you get to see the modalities. Then you're hanging out with athletic trainers
Mhm.
and just kind of gaining knowledge from them. You turned a bad situation into a positive one,
Yeah.
which I mean is tough.
It wasn't always like that. I had obviously had those thoughts too, like, why me? Why did this happen? I remember when, like, just getting the diagnosis, and like I was calm in the room, and then as soon as I got to my car, I started bawling my eyes out just
Yeah.
because I was in shock. I was
Hmm.
like, wow, this is going to change the trajectory of my college career, really. Well, you said all my friends were going to the beach, going to parties, doing all these things, and meanwhile I'm on crutches. I can't walk. So that was definitely really challenging. But I flipped the script at that time, and I was like, I'm going to hone in on what I can control and what I like. So I really used that to propel my education and like my career.
So that is like a really interesting spot to be in. I mean, watching your friends, I mean, especially in the day of social media and you're following your friends online and texting them and they're saying, this is so fun, this is so fun. I mean, you're mature, obviously, for your age. Everything you've learned, you've gone through, you become more mature. But I mean, what did you do to pass the time? Was it simply scrolling on YouTube or Instagram, or did you actually put it to practice and be like, okay, what can I use? Can I find an athletic training book? Can I find something useful to read? I mean, you stuck up for at least what, 2 months in a bed, probably with crutches.
Yeah, so I was non-weight bearing for 6 weeks, which meant that I had to be on my crutches for 6 weeks. And if you know me in real life, you know that like I like never want to like sit down. Like I'm easily bored and I always want to do something, especially growing up in high school and in college, like with my friends. I was very social. We were always doing stuff. So I felt like my friends did still make it a point to like get me out of the house. And me for myself, like I didn't want to be cooped up in my bed. I know the day I got my surgery, my mom was like, "All right, lay down, just rest the whole day." I took probably like an hour nap. I got up. I'm like, "Mom, I want to move around." And I was like up on my crutches, just doing laps in our apartment. Like I just did not want to sit down. So
Mm.
um, I had one of my friends bring me to volleyball practice sometimes. So like I'd go to Bridgewater and like I would sit on the sidelines and like watch my teammates, even though like I couldn't do anything. I just wanted to be there for support and like be still around the people that I love. Because obviously, like when you have any surgery and you're by yourself, it gets pretty lonely. So I tried to keep myself busy, and my friends helped a lot. Um, I would just have to sit in the back seat with like my leg up and stuff. But I did manage to like do a lot. I went to a concert on crutches.
Crazy.
I just didn't want to like be home. I was like, all right, guys, just because like this surgery's not stopping me. So we were still always together doing stuff. But and in terms of my alone time, I was when I was on my computer like at home by myself, I would look up like research articles on like ACL rehab and protocols and benchmarks and things like that. I would do my rehab at home too. Like, so from my physical therapist, he would give me exercise to do at home, making sure I'm doing that, icing, all of those things to like help me move forward. Um, if you've had any sort of surgery before, like you kind of become obsessed with like your injury because you just want to like get better and you want to learn the most about what's going on. So I did a lot of research on that. And then I was, like you said, in the athletic training program. So I knew that the year ahead was going to be difficult. So I kind of wanted to learn as much as I could before, the next semester started. So I was, going online and seeing what classes I was going to take the next semester and what could I learn, prior to getting into that classes to be like a step ahead of everyone.
Overachiever. No, not an overachiever, but just a hard worker. I mean, it's impressive to be in a situation like that and then be like, okay, what can I do? You're going to go get better. Some other people might just pout, right? I mean, your thoughts will take you a long way. And I think it's probably just because you just always want to be moving. So you want to be moving in a good direction, in a positive direction, which is a testament to your character as a person. So let's fast forward. We can brush over the fact that we met within the year after that surgery, I think, or a year and a half.
You had surgery at the same time.
I had surgery on my throwing shoulder that took me out of baseball for a year.
So we would be in like the athletic training room together, but we didn't know each other.
No, we did that. We lived in the same dorm on the same floor.
We're injured at the same time.
We're injured at the same time in this athletic training room, but no, we did not.
We didn't cross paths.
We did not meet like that. But yeah, we did have injuries at the same time. I was out for 6 months because of my shoulder. I tore the labrum, and we were in the training room at the same time. That took me out of baseball for a year. And unlike you, I didn't really pursue my major. I went back to baseball. I mean, I think that's just a simple fact of athletic training is way more intensive.
Yeah, I didn't have the option to return to volleyball after that because clinicals and everything.
Clinicals, yeah, you're traveling to high schools, you're traveling to PT places, you have places to be, whereas I'm just doing business classes that I can get done with at 12 and still play baseball.
Right.
So let's go on to graduating. First one. One of the first ones in your family to graduate college.
No.
One of the first ones, not the first.
A lot of my family has graduated. Surprisingly, fun fact.
No, I know, but it's still impressive that it's like you're certified athletic trainer. You have to study for boards. You have to.
Yeah.
So
for sure, but my dad graduated.
Yeah, and your
cousin and my cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not the first. I'm not a first gen, but
I know, but like your mom didn't, your brother didn't, like just,
all different paths.
You're more immediately. I mean, your dad was a college athlete too, but
yeah,
I'm just saying it's still impressive to come from where you came from, graduate college with, I mean, arguably one of the hardest degrees. I mean,
yeah,
she's taking you. I think you had to take like an extra 20 credits than everybody else.
Yeah, I ended
because
up
of your major.
College. I think I ended up graduating college with, I don't know, what was it, requirement for Bridgewater?
Like I think it was like a 120.
Yeah, I think I had like 170. Like I had, or 159.
Like something. My major had 60 required credits. You were like 89.
Yeah,
or something.
I had something.
I mean, your workload
like
was
a lot.
as intensive as any other out there. But I mean, now you're not going to find athletic training undergrads really anymore. Everything's a grad school. So
yeah. Got lucky.
She was the last class, 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're out of college. You pass your boards. You study for your boards. I mean, you're grinding in a similar fashion for.
Yeah.
Walk us through the boards, because I think I want to give more credit to the boards and how serious of an examination this is. Like, how much does it cost to take? Like, do you have a certain limit of how many times you can take it? What? So
basically, the BOC is the Board of Certification for Athletic Trainers, and it's like everyone talks about an athletic training school because that's obviously you're into the profession. It's a 3-hour exam, if I'm not mistaken. I literally took it a year ago and I don't even remember. So I believe you have 3 hours to take the exam, and it's about 180 questions, maybe 200 around there. And it's a mixture of like 5 different domains that you have to know as an athletic trainer. So like therapeutic exercise, healthcare administration, wow, I really am forgetting them. Emergency care, prevention and interventions, and there's one more. wow, that's so bad I can't even remember. But
It's over now. You passed.
so yeah, so there's the 5 domains, and in each domain there's X amount of questions. But basically, you have to get a certain amount of questions right to pass. I think roughly it's like 70% to pass, but the pass rate I think at Bridgewater State was only like 50%. It was really low. Like you had to study for so long to like get it right because I don't know if anyone listening is like a nursing major or any other healthcare. Like when you have a multiple choice question, it's like every answer is correct. You have to pick the one that's like most correct. So it's like it's not an easy multiple choice. Like that that one's wrong. It's like no, like those are all those all could be the right answer, but you have to select the one that's most the right answer. So it was a lot of questions like that, and a lot of preparing and studying that way. Like Colin remembers, I was literally I'm like a nutcase studying for the exam because I was so nervous I wasn't going to pass on the first try. But I did, which was great. The exam itself costs like $350. Standardized testing is so expensive and obnoxious. But so since I was paying that much money, it's like I'm passing the first try. I don't want to leave it up to fate. I want to prepare myself. So if anyone watches Grey's Anatomy, what got me to pass, this is what I'm using as my token to pass. I went to the bathroom before the exam, looked in the mirror, did the Superman pose that Amelia does before surgery, and took a few deep breaths and took my exam. And
a little boost of confidence. Superman pose. Put your hands on your hips and kind of stare up to the sky.
Yeah,
it induces power and confidence, I guess. So we graduate college.
Yeah.
We're a board certified athletic trainer.
Yeah.
And we want to quarantine hits.
Yeah, that was before. Quarantine hits before.
Well, yeah.
We were in in our last year of college, so we were in a pandemic for the last year of college.
So you got to adjust on the fly to clinicals, which have been in person with real athletes.
Yeah.
And now they're like semi-virtual, like, right? They're kind of.
Yeah, we would still be able to go in, but athletes would have to like sign up to like be treated, and like it wasn't like you could walk into the training room. You had to like buy appointments, so it was like a lot more difficult to get that like hands-on experience when you had less athletes coming in.
You're limited in your scope because I mean, as an athlete, you don't want to go to the athletic training room if you don't have to.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
how some feel. So they're not going to sign up for
unless it's serious.
Unless it's serious.
Yeah, so saw a lot less.
So now.
But yeah, we can talk a little bit about like the summer before my senior year at least. That's when I started CrossFit.
That's what I was gonna say. So now we're pursuing. We got a job as an athletic trainer at a high school in a clinic, but I do want to move on to that CrossFit side. How did you get into CrossFit? Why did you get into CrossFit, and how does it tickle your itch? I guess.
Scratch my itch.
Scratch your itch, yeah. Not tickle
I always say scratch my itch. Things that scratch my itch. I got into CrossFit thanks to my cousin Eric and his fiance Tina, because they have been doing CrossFit for many years. I first dropped into a CrossFit gym in Houston, Texas, when we were at a family trip. They had friends down there or something, so we dropped in, and they're like, "Do you want to come do CrossFit with us?" And I had never tried it before. So I went, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed that style of training. Like I was kind of over bodybuilding and like rehab exercises, which I had done for my ACL. And like that's all I knew for exercise is either my sport or like bodybuilding. So I liked how CrossFit was like varied. And then coming back to Massachusetts, I was looking at CrossFit gyms in our area, just from a simple search online. And then I stumbled upon our gym. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right, I want to start. So I called the gym up and, made a first appointment or on-ramp and started up CrossFit. And I thought it was a lot of fun. And to this day, I think it's one of the best decisions I've made because, we have such a good community and
great
fun
community. There. Yeah, great community. And you get a little bit of everything at CrossFit. Like there's a little bit of strength training, there's a little bit of cardio, you get a little bit of gymnastics.
You really hit all the things.
So it challenges you. I mean, you could be strong as shit, like you could be super strong, but then you go and try and do a handstand push-up or a handstand walk or a bar muscle up, and that's tough.
Yeah.
Or you could be really good at gymnastics, but you don't have the pure strength required for strength training. So
yeah,
it really is.
And it also makes you like it keeps you an athlete
Yes.
because
Yeah.
it really is
That's
like
why
the
I
sport
do.
of athletes. So
Yeah. I mean, there's running, there's everything. There's
Yeah.
literally just everything. I mean, it's
Yeah.
CrossFit because it's crosses so many different paths. So you do CrossFit, you join in like July of 2020,
June, July.
June, July 2020. And within a year, July of 2021 or August of 2021, you're invited to a CrossFit.
It was June.
It was June.
Yeah.
So within a year, you're invited to compete at a CrossFit Invictus Invitational.
Yep. That was
How the hell did that happen?
That was one of the scariest things that happened to me. I got the invite probably, I want to say March, and the competition was in June. Maybe it was April that I got invited or whatever. So I didn't know if I was going to say yes or not because I'd only been doing CrossFit for like 6-7 months at the time. And I was like, not that good at it. I didn't think so at least. And little did I know that I had the potential to, compete against all these athletes, RX athletes at that. I was very intimidated, but I talked with like my friends from the gym. They're like, it's a great experience. Just try it out. Just, you can do it basically. So I said yes. And I started training, started working on the workouts that were posted and giving it my best shot, working with my coach at my gym and getting private training, working on my weaknesses, and showed up the day of. Me and you rolled in there, and I was so nervous. There's a difference between like, training at your home gym and then going somewhere completely different. You're not like on a stage, but it feels like you are. Like you kind of get stage fright. You you kind of forget. You're just like, what do I do? You're like the same thing you always do when you work out. It just feels a little bit more magnified.
I mean, it's like anything. Like if you're practicing on the court for basketball, for volleyball, like nobody sees that. You don't got fans during practice, but then you show up to an invitational, you show up to a game, and those fans. It's like, what do I do? What do I do? It's like, just do what you practiced. Yeah. I mean, it's easier said than done because you're just sitting there and you're like.
Yeah, it's also different for me because I had all my competition experience has been, not all I should say, but most of it, like volleyball's a team sport. So I was always on with my team. Track was an individual sport, but where I really excelled was the relay. So also like a team effort. So being alone, like, I'm an individual in CrossFit. I was competing as an individual. So just, all eyes on me, I'm my own team was a big difference.
Yeah. I mean, it's completely different. All eyes are watching you. I mean, there was 7 other girls out there, women out there
it wasn't
competing
really
with you, but it is like if they're all moving on to the next station or workout, then
but it was definitely a humbling experience just because I was so inexperienced, so new to the sport, just new to everything. I knew going in there, like, I was like, I'm not going to come in first. I know that. I'm not going to, hang my head if I don't do well because this is just an experience, something to add to my, like, life resume, something that I can just try that's new and, be proud of my efforts. And I was at the end of the day, I didn't do as well as I wanted to, but that's all right. It left a lot of room for improvement, I think.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we're kind of aiming for, just continued growth on life.
Yeah.
All right. So last kind of section, spicy question. I guess it kind of relates to CrossFit in a way, and maybe I can tie that in after. But it's something that I think millions of people face, and I think people like me, middle-class white, don't really face a lot, especially in this area. And that is feeling not like an outcast. I don't want to make it seem bad, but we're different skin colors. So, I mean, I know it's uncomfortable for you. You've expressed it to me. And you don't have to touch on it if you don't want to, but my whole family's white and they're all accepting. There's no hate there. But it is uncomfortable to walk into a space where you feel not fit in. I mean, it could be as simple as you walk into a gym. Like everybody who walks into a bodybuilding gym and who has never been to a bodybuilding gym and is like either overweight or skinny and not strong, they feel outcasted because, they see the muscle heads who are on steroids doing bicep curls with 60 pounds or benching 405, or, you walk into a CrossFit gym and you see a guy, doing handstand walks up and down the gym like it's nobody's business. I mean,
I think every one of us can think of a scenario where they walk in, they feel uncomfortable. How do you handle that uncomfortability?
So I guess a better way to ask that question is, do you feel uncomfortable? Because,
Well,
sometimes it depends where I am, right? Like I when I was younger, I remember like my mom, I would always like come home and like my classmates would all be white and there'd be like me and like two other black kids. And I'd be like, Mom, why is my skin brown? Like why are all my friends at school white? Like I just, having that like just noticing I'm different than everybody else and why is that? And, my mom would always be like, "Look at my skin. I'm brown. Like that's why you're brown. Like there's no shame in that." But obviously like growing up you just you feel different like you said.
you want to fit in too.
And then just racism, colorism, all of that and added to it just kind of stirs the pot and makes you a little bit more insecure. So it affected me a lot more when I was younger and it doesn't affect me as much now. So I would be when I was younger, I grew up with like most of my friends were white, and so I was like fine with that. They were fine with that, like it was normal. But then like I remember like being, I don't know, you do want to fit in, and it's like none of the boys that I like me, and I was like, well, is it because I'm brown? Like questions like that, things like that would make me feel uncomfortable or make me
Shout out to
upset.
those boys that didn't like her.
But then now, living in the South Shore is pretty white, depending where you go.
I mean,
But
yeah. I mean, her. For instance, I don't mean to interrupt, but we brought her dad one time down here, and he was like, "Why are there hay bales on the side of the road? Like, what are those things? Like, why does it say $25?"
yeah, just things like that you like we're not used to seeing because we've only grown up in the
They
city.
grown up in the city. There's no hay bales in
Yeah,
the city.
so just being like such a rural space. But I sometimes I try and be more aware of it. Like when we go to like really nice restaurants or like when we're at the Bruins game, for example, like I look around, I'm like, I'm the only black person in this room. Like I just make a note of it. Like, sometimes or even if I'm at a store like Lululemon or something and I'm like, am I going to get targeted because I'm the only black person? Like is this associate like following me around because they think I'm going to steal? Like things like that that's like messed up. Sometimes crosses my mind. I don't really let it bother me too much because like I know myself and I hold myself to like a very good character. And I just do the best I can. But it doesn't really bother me that much anymore, especially since I know like I have such a good community and people that accept me that it's like not worth like
Yeah.
being stressed over like being the only black person in the room. Like
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure David Goggins talks about being like the only.
I mean, yeah,
I think
because
that's
he
like
grew
one
up
of
in KKK headquarters of the
yeah,
world in
exactly.
Indiana.
So like everyone has their like the only of them, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you said, someone walking into the gym for the first time, like they could be like the only girl or the only boy or the only black person or the only Asian person. Like you could be the only something. And so everyone has their own little
Yeah.
thing that makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I think working through that is uncomfortable, but it's like ultimately makes you stronger. You know how to handle it. You know, you have self esteem. You have self confidence, and
Yeah.
like, you know you're worthy
Yeah.
to be here. You know you fit in. I just bring it up not to make you feel uncomfortable, but just because I think as a society we're not aware of how people feel in certain situations.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think it's just like, oh, they fit in. They feel like they fit in. But then it's like, why aren't you talking? You know, why aren't you being social?
Yeah.
Why are you not fitting in?
Yeah.
Like they might not see the color of your skin, they might not see that you're overweight, and they might not directly address that. But it's like it's like I feel overweight at the gym and I feel like people are looking at me or I feel like I'm being targeted. It's like
Yeah.
that's how you feel, so that changes your actions, which makes people question why you feel like that. But it's just I don't know if it's built up by over time media, but it's just like I I just the goal is to get people more aware of that and be like at least be cognizant of that person might feel like this because of that.
Yeah. One of my friends from college, she was really good at like always like including people. Like always, she was always really good at like spotting who in the room like was maybe shy or insecure or like quiet, and like make sure they feel invited. Like, hey, come here, come sit with us. Like, do you want to drink? Like, do you want to hang out with us? Like, just making sure someone feels like included and like and involved in the group, because sometimes like you have someone who is hanging out on the outside, but like doesn't want to, intrude or feels like an outsider. So I think it's important to like include, just look around and see who's around you and be like, making sure everyone's comfortable in that space.
Yeah, and just realizing like,
and calling out bullshit when you hear it too. Just like when, like, if you're around a group of people who are like, talking insensitively or like saying things like,
yeah, like, what are you talking about? Like, why are you talking like that? Like, what
exactly.
makes you say stuff like that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're getting so pulled in so many different directions on media and social media and just by powerful figures. But I mean, I think it's important to realize that we're still human. We still require human to human interaction. It should be based on caring and compassion. Yeah, you don't have to agree with them on the way they see things, but I mean, it's like we're all a team. I mean, bringing it back home to a lot of the talk we've had of athletics is like we're all a team. Like, I mean, I think for me going to CrossFit, like I just was like, when you're a bodybuilder, you're like, I want to be the strongest one here. Like, I want to make sure people notice me. And it's CrossFit. It's like nobody gives a shit how heavy you lift or how fast you run. It's like you did that hard ass workout and you did it by yourselves, but then everybody's going to cheer you on if you're the last one.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to give you a high five after. Yeah.
It's like the ego is dropped at the door.
It's more about doing it together.
Yeah.
And I just think
it's
like
community based.
Everybody can take that into whatever area, business, the fitness, the sports, the anything. Like if you could just take it away and be like, okay, I don't have to be friends with this person, but how do I make this person feel more comfortable? So like maybe I can make them positive impact on this group or a positive member of society
100%
whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree. It's a community that makes everyone feel welcome.
Yeah.
Actually, I would just to add one last thing. I was thinking the other day of like, how people set their like say a word for every year. Like now it's a new year, everyone like sets their intentions or whatever. And I was thinking like what I would want mine to be, and I think I came up with the word community. I know that's kind of like vague in general, but it's just like what makes me feel good is like my community. And like I've always been like that, going back to like being raised by like my grandparents and my aunts and my cousins, being so connected with my friends my whole life. And like one of my biggest core values as I'm literally opening my eyes, I'm like, wow, I thrive off of community. It's why I love CrossFit. It's why I love family. It's why I love friends. It's like, that's what keeps me going is like my community and how positive it's affected me. So I would like to help others too, even in my job now, like my community at work. I like love the kids I work with and, I just want to help them. So things like that, just keep the world going, like strong communities that like are there for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to leave it like that. We're one big community. Let's look out for each other. And I mean, we each only have a limited time on this earth. So
yeah, be nice. Work hard, be nice.
Work hard, be nice.
Segue to Kayla's quote.
Oh yeah. Shout out Kayla. She's going to be on the pod next week. Stay tuned for that. Hope to see y'all next week. Thank you.
Bye.
How much of a factor does your physical health play into your mental health? What's our plans for the future? Your plans for the future?
One piece of advice you could give to everyone in the world, what do you think it would be?
This is Spitballin with Colin.